All right, my man. Chris Speaks back here today, my man. Captain. We're gonna talk about little politics going on here, especially with our what's going on here of late. Shake the world up. Never seen like anything like this before an election cycle. Captain, my man, how are you?
I'm doing well, Chris. I'm doing well, man. I'm glad to be back on the show.
Hey, man, it's always a pleasure having you. Well, first of all, let's just ask the first question. What do you think about President Biden's withdrawal from the race?
It's a little fishy. I don't think there's too many election cycles where we've had this happen, where you have, the pretty much a shoe in incumbent running for president, reelection, and advice on what he wants to do. Did interviews, said, "Look, I'm not dropping out. I'm running for reelection." He was all in, and the party, the Democratic Party doing what they do, they pushed him out of the way. I don't recall seeing this. The only thing that's similar to this would be when Hillary and Bernie Sanders were running, and they kind
Mhm.
of just swept Bernie Sanders out of the way. What was that like in 2016? They just swept him out of the way. Um, this is kind of similar to that, but this is a little bit different because Hillary wasn't already president. Biden is currently president, running for reelection, and they just pushed him to the side. And
Yeah, we
they
never
didn't even
had him
vote.
come.
They didn't even
Yeah,
vote for the guy yet on that side. So it's very odd.
and you think about it. Now so that this is a candidate who is now our nominee, Kamala, or their nominee, Kamala. She's not participated in one primary. No, no votes. Nobody's voted for her. Do you think that President Obama was behind this, forcing him out?
I can see that. Um, the the only thing about it that's very odd is if they were gonna push him to the side and go with Kamala this time, or Kamala, or whatever the lady's name is, if they were gonna go with her, then why go with Biden last go round? You know, that's the weird thing about it. So when she ran for president in 2020, because a lot of people on the Democrat side obviously forgot that she ran for president. Like she didn't just be a VP pick. She actually ran for president. Where she called Joe Biden the racist on the debate stage. People act like they forgot about all that, but she polled so low, and the voter turnout for her was so low that she dropped out. Like after like 2 or 3 states, I mean, she dropped out. There was no support. So it's just odd that they pushed Biden. They pretty much forced him to run for president. He got so called elected for president, and then they picked her for the VP to just come to now and then push him aside for reelection, and then push her to. It seems odd because I don't think that they really want to put her to the position, but who else are they really going to push that people have in the facial recognition of knowing on that side?
You make some pretty good.
They have dropped the ball really since 2016. They have consistently dropped the ball. The Democratic Party has, in my opinion. I mean, they do a lot of things very smart in their marketing of their ideas to people, where people just, I don't know, they just blindly follow. But when it comes to presidential elections and putting the right people in place after Obama, they have not done a very good job of that. But some kind of way, it works for them. I don't get it. It works.
Well, you made some pretty good points there. I believe that the reason Biden was picked or anointed, however you want to call it, crowned with a nomination the way they did, because that's essentially what they did when all of them dropped out, is because he was perceived as the only one moderate enough up there on that stage to defeat Trump. Everybody else was seen so far to the left. And then when they got into the nominating process, that I was reading this last night. I forgot, but there was such a groundswell support to pick a black female. Okay, that's fine. But shouldn't the vice presidency be based on who is ready to take over from day one instead of a black female, a Mexican male, a gay male, whatever? I mean, why why do we have to go through what ethnic, gender, whatever it is that you have to be president? Because there's no stopping that. Next one's going to be, okay, a gay president, okay, a Hispanic president, an Asian president, a Native American president. I mean,
Yeah.
when did this become well, let's call a spade, a DEI canon?
You know, we got started with Obama. I would say it really got started with Obama, because let's look at, prior to Obama, you had other, quote unquote black men run for president. Colin Powell was one. You had other people that they had in position to push, and it just didn't happen. And they were mainly on the Republican side. But the Democrat side, they saw an opportunity with Obama, and ever since then, they have gone in that direction of it's got to be, what do they call it? BIPOC, a black indigenous person of color. So basically, any person that's non-white is going to be at the forefront, because their side only looks at identity. Identity is paramount. Nothing is more important on the Democrat side than your identity, what color you are, how you your sexual orientation, how you identify gender wise. All of that is paramount to God or anything else. That comes first. So that's really the reason why they're going that route. But see, here's the thing: the Democrat Party created this monster of identity. So now they have to keep going down that road by going with Kamala, because if they don't go with her and they go with a white male, then now they're gonna be looked at as, okay, why are y'all going back on what y'all have been doing for the last 10, 15 years?
And that was another thing I forgot to say when you mentioned that, because they had no choice. Because if you would have said, okay, we're going somewhere else, okay, well, you didn't believe she was the right choice to be vice president then over the last 4 years. She's not, well, so you was stuck with that. And this thing too, I wish the Republicans would get off of, quit talking about her race, quit talking about her gender, talk about how she's associated with Bernie Sanders and AOC and that group, because you're falling right into their hands. The Democrats are the ones that talk about race. I don't hear Republicans until these other guys are talking about race the way that they do. You're playing right into their hands with that.
That's right. That's right. The thing is, race has become such a huge issue, and just like the number one priority for, I mean, literally we got federal laws that prohibit the so-called discrimination of anyone from getting a job or whatever the case based on their race. So race has been, like I said earlier, it is paramount to everything else. God and everything else comes second to race and your color. So the Republican side has also gone into that identity race, because they have been pushing Tim Scott, for example. Tim Scott is a person that they have been he's been at what, CPAC for the last 2 times in a row, being a focal point, because they're trying to push him into the fold so it doesn't look a certain way. But look, it's not about looking a certain way. See, this we get caught up in optics of how things look rather than the substance of what we're pushing policy wise. We need to get back to the policies that are good for everybody, rather than putting certain people in position because of how they look or identify, and then their policies are crap.
Okay, so let's go into Kamala for a minute. So obviously, I think me and you both can agree. I'm sure a lot of people out there, she was not the best person to be vice president 4 years ago. So now we've got this lady running for president. Now I wrote an article the other day, and a lot of people said it was great, and I got slammed for being misogynistic and this right here. And anyway, sum it up. I said, well, in times of trouble, I look at presidents like Lincoln, Wilson, Roosevelt, and then I went on, people who answered the duty. I talked about Jimmy Carter, Lyndon Johnson, and Richard. No, it was Jimmy Carter, LBJ, and Carter. 3 men who faced adversity. History looks at them different. And then I said, I went in this right here. I said Americans look for their president for comfort in a time of natural turmoil. Can you imagine Kamala giving the speech after the Challenge disaster? Can you imagine her in charge during the Persian Gulf War? Can you see her standing atop the rubble with a bullhorn on 9/11, seeking to comfort a crowd? Can you picture her watching the screen the way Obama did when he gave the Navy SEALs to order that attack? More recently, can you see her in the Rose Garden addressing the people during the pandemic?
Absolutely not. To everything you just named. Um,
And and let me say that,
huh?
but I can go back and I said I could see Madeleine Albright doing it. I could see Condoleezza Rice doing it. I could have even seen Hillary do it. I don't like her, I don't like her politics, but those women I could see doing it as opposed to Kamala. I just see a weak figure. I'm sorry, you go ahead and
Well, on that point of what you're saying, so there's other. So the thing about her being a female in that position, of speaking reason to people and explaining a situation that's very, a tragic situation, whatever that may be. There's not an issue with a female being in that role of doing that. When it comes to Kamala or Kamala, whatever, however, I've heard people say all kind of things. I call it camel toe, but there, there is this lady when she gets in front of a microphone in a crowd of people, all of a sudden she just like rambles about absolutely nothing. She
oh
does this
yeah.
thing where she'll start talking about a subject. Let's say she's talking about what time it is, and she'll say, clocks were made to keep time, and keeping time is so great because we need to keep time because if you know what time it is, you can get up in the morning and you can get your teeth brushed, and then time. But we all have time to do everything. Because time, if time runs out, it's over. It's like what? Literally, that's literally how she talks. So it's a thing where when you're not good or decent enough at something, right? Her thing was DA. Her thing was prosecutor. That's what she started out doing. Now she got into the politics part because of her whole relationship with Willie Brown. So she was kind of snuck into the politics, I would kind of say, right? She was kind of forced in. It wasn't a natural thing where people took hold to her because she was just eloquent speaker. She knew what she was talking about. Her thing was prosecuting. That's what her profession was. But now she's been forced into this. Whereas, like a Hillary Clinton, she has been in this for a long time. So she's groomed and knows how to speak in front of a crowd and whatnot. That's the difference here. People are just going with this Kamala Kamato person because she's what's in front of them right now, and it's all about her identity. Now, I'm gonna say this right here. Personally, I don't think America is ready or never will be ready for a female president. Period. I don't care
That's what
if
I
the
want to hear you
female.
talk about now.
Yeah, yeah.
So, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. So, that's what I want to hear you say next. So, you said, list the other night about that. So, you said certain roles are made for man. So go ahead and explain to me, why that is, so everybody else can hear this because
So
I
so
listened to it and I shared it.
so number one, I'm a God believing person. So God made man and then he made woman from man. That's the way it goes, right? With
Mhm.
everything that's created, there is a creator that creates. Okay, we I think we all can basically understand that much, right? Things don't just happen. So there's a creator. So a creator created man, and then man, God used man to create woman. So woman has been created to be a helpmeet to the man. Now, let's fast forward that to our current situation. We have for so long in America and Western civilization, really, we have dropped the ball when it comes to allowing women to run certain areas of in industry or government or whatever the case, church, we've allowed women to step out of their natural role and do these roles. And so what has happened is we've watched the decline of our society. We literally have watched that. If anybody goes back and looks at the women's suffrage movement and all of that, that has ushered in a decline in our society as a whole, our way of life, our sustainability, our stability, all of that has gone downhill. Now, I know people are going to be upset because they'll say, but women can lead and women can do the same jobs that men can do. Okay, granted, we are all human, right? I'm a man. I can't do everything that another man can do, right? And I realize that and I understand that, and I don't feel less than because I understand what I can do, what my capabilities are, right? I can't go right now and be a Navy SEAL. Can't do it. All right. I'm not built for that. That's a whole nother type of man that does that job. Now, women need to understand there are certain roles that are made for them. And the difference between a man saying we can't do everything other men can do, right? Women tend to not be able to say that, in generally speaking. It's always they feel like they're being put down because they can't do something. But the thing is, like I said, certain roles are made for certain people. Now, when it comes to being a leader, a president, for example, we need to look at this on a broader level. We can't look at on the American level of, we're all about inclusion and all that crap. The rest of the world, Africa, the Middle East, Eastern Europe, there are places all around South America. There are places that they don't understand DEI, or we like to call DIE, die, because that's what it's about, right? It's about everything. Every time you pick somebody because of color identity, the situation just dies. So the rest of the world don't understand that. They don't know what trans is. They don't know what being a homosexual, cisgendered, whatever. They don't know what that means, right? So imagine Kamala being president and going to talk to these other nations where they don't understand a female being in that role. They don't respect that. It's an insult to them to have a female come talk to them like on their same level. It's an insult. So we have to look at things on a broader level. And, people are just kind of caught up in, they think everything revolves around them. And that's the issue with America and our society as a whole. Everything revolves around us instead of us looking at the bigger picture and saying, what's the right thing to do in this situation for the betterment of everybody? And it's not having a female president.
You said something that you said women were to support. There's a role for women support. So you would have a problem with a woman being, say, Secretary of State or senator or something like that to support the president.
Yeah, not necessarily. I wouldn't. I mean, personally, I prefer men to just be in government and just be leaders like that to a level like that. It just to me it's just more uniform, and it takes out issues, because here's another issue. When you start having what they call it, like co-ed, where you got like mixed as men and women in working together, you have issues, right? Because men and women, what do they like to do? They like to get with each other and do a little hanky panky.
Yeah, I was mentioning that about when I was in the Army the other night. The worst thing that I thought they were doing was they integrated men and women into the forces in the same units. I have no problem with
Are
women
going to
serving
check
in the
other
military.
men for being like homosexual and doing that type of stuff. They're not going to have that, right? Like you look at football teams, they don't have issues like that. They don't cut that stuff out immediately, right? So yeah. So to your point, I don't necessarily have as much of an issue, but when you're talking about being a president, like we messed up down here. The bottom is messed up, right?
Well,
Let's get, when you talk about the top positions, let's not mess that up too.
Well, when you get like deployed overseas, and you've got 60 men in a unit, and there's 4 females there, so I've been and I seen what was going on over there. You know that man. It was like a part. You know the community community trough, so to speak. Everybody just they's all going home pregnant. But so
Yep.
uh, let me get back to Kamala. Um, this you talking about her speaking a while ago. There's a reason they have not let her give any press conferences or give any interviews because they know what's going to happen. And everybody, all my Democratic, or excuse me, all our Trump friends who are messing me, I'm like, look, calm down. I know she's got a little bump in the polls. Just relax. Wait till after the convention, and America's really going to get to know her. How do you what? First, let me ask you this: uh, did you find it offensive what President Trump said when he said she's black? Well, she used to be. She identified as Indian. I mean, I could see the Trump humor in that. I did not see it as being racist or anything at all. I mean, I just that's Trump. I didn't. And the media turned it out to be he was combative as soon as he walked on the stage. I said, no, he wasn't. When he sat down, they jumped all over him from jump one. So what was your take when Trump said that?
No, he was absolutely right. The thing about this lady is Kamala Harris. She Her mother is Indian, right? She's South Pacific Indian. Like she's red dot on the forehead Indian. Now, her dad is, from what I could tell, Jamaican. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I think that's what his birth certificate says, Jamaican. So, any Jamaican I've ever heard talk, they don't claim to be black. Okay, they say Jamaican. That's what they are. They're Jamaican. They don't say anything about being black. Black put that on themselves. So that's number one. And then when it comes to her, Kamala Harris always claimed to be Indian. If you look back before she ran for president in 2020, every award she got and all these accolades, she made sure that everybody knew she was Indian. She even did an interview with a lady who's Indian, and the lady in the interview said, Kamala, it's so cool to have an Indian lady, being in. And she's like, yeah, she didn't correct her and say, I'm black and whatever. And yeah, I'm Indian. That's what she claimed. So Trump is not lying, and most people know if you've been paying attention to the lady, it's easy to find. Just look her
Oh
up.
yeah.
He always claimed to be Indian. So now all of a sudden is because it's convenient to be black now because she's running for president.
And the other day it was talking about her way she switched. She's in Atlanta and she's giving a fake Southern accent, and I was like, "Lady, come on!" And someone would say, "Tell you just point out about her being saying Jamaican." You this kind of like with President Obama too. When he tried to said something about go tell Pookie and Ray Ray to go vote. To me, when somebody says black, I'm thinking of black who has grown up in America, who has relate back to slave ancestors and stuff like that, grew up in the culture. That's not what I consider. I mean, I guess that may be an unfair statement. That's not what I consider a black American. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. That's what I'm saying about black Americans. They attach the black term to everybody else in other nations, like in Africa. African, Africa is different nations.
Oh
Those
yeah.
different nations, they don't call themselves black. They're whatever their nation is, right? Whether it's they're from Senegal or they're from Ghana or South Africa, whatever. They represent that, and then even it goes even further than that. In those nations, they have different tribes of whatever they are. And so they may not get along with the next tribe. They don't connect with each other like that. The American black all, kind of connect generally because they all say they're all black and they're like the same. They don't do that overseas. That's an American thing.
Now to Kamala, I was looking at some numbers the other day, and That's when my friends texted me, and he was just so excited. And he said, "This is like 2008 all over again." And I said, "Buddy, I said Barack Obama, she is not okay. I don't know where you're getting that from, but so I'm looking at her support, and I mean, said like 73% of the blacks support her, and I'm like, man, look, if I'm Trump, I'm taking those numbers all day long. Do you think the black community is going to rally around this woman? I mean, or just because she's a black female, or they're going to see through this? Because when I look at some of her record as prosecution of what she did with black males and marijuana, I see a lot of black men be like, hold up now, I'm not
Yeah,
going with it.
yeah, that right there. Yeah, that was a real thing. So people, that don't know, Joe Biden wrote the crime bill back in 94 or 93, and I think it went into effect in 94, something like that. Um, so yeah, she was the DA in California, I think in San Francisco, if I'm not mistaken, and she was really tough when it came to drug crimes. And so a lot of, so-called black men got incarcerated behind her, prosecuting them very harshly when it came to like marijuana or different drugs, crack or whatever the case. Me personally, I don't necessarily have an issue with a drug dealer going and doing time. I don't support drug dealers of any color or creed or whatever they want to identify as. Um, but the same people that have issues with mass incarceration are looking at Kamala or Camel Toe like she didn't lock up black men in mass numbers, and that's exactly what she did.
And there was even parts of her laughing about it too.
Yeah. She was. Yeah, she was. Everything is funny to her, man. Everything is everything is like that for her. And another thing, I don't know if you were aware of this. She's an AKA. All right, she's an Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority. Now, here's the thing about the black community, because you asked about the black community, are they gonna get behind her? Here's where she knows she can get a win. These fraternities and sororities, especially the black ones, they ride for each other. I'm talking about they can be on opposite sides, politically. They can be on opposite sides, faith-wise. They can be different faiths. It don't matter. When it comes to their fraternity or their sorority, they are going to ride with that person. So her being an AKA, she's automatically going to get pretty much the majority of all AKAs and Alpha, the fraternity, Alpha Phi Alpha. She's going to get those automatically. And we're talking about thousands. And then imagine those people going in their friend group, their whatever, their professional group, they're spreading the word. So she's going to get a good majority of black community just based off of that, just the sorority thing.
Well, yeah, I've seen these numbers, and I've ran them by people. I haven't seen it in a while, but this would be astronomical. That could, especially margins, that Trump could get up to 20% of black male votes. Do you think that's possible, or those numbers just inflated?
Yeah, I think I said before that I could see up to 25%.
If
I
he
can
got
see up to
25%,
25%.
there's no way she could win if he got 25% of the black male votes. I mean,
Yeah.
the black males are finally, because like I was talking to one friend and he's a Democrat, but I said, black males, they line up more. They're conservative, that they want to get ahead economically. I mean, they line up more with Republican values than what they do Democrat. You go ask a black male, are they behind the LGBT, the trans? See what response you get out of that.
Yeah. We, the thing about the vote, the way that I look at the voting, the people who go and vote, the black America who go and vote, they tend to vote Democrat. It's just that's why the numbers are so high. They're like 90-some% Democrat. The people who need to be voting, who would be conservative, who would really, make it a lot more even when it comes to the black vote, these individuals don't go vote. they're not interested in politics enough to go and vote and see it through. There's the issue because there's such a low turnout in black voters. Like where I live in Montgomery, every time there's an election, don't matter who it can be for president, for governor, don't matter, mayor. There's only going to be 30% or less turnout. It's just it's just what it is. I mean, the numbers have been that way for quite some time, extremely low. So that's why the black community gets, people talk about the black community being Democrat voters. It's because the people that go and vote, they do vote Democrat at 90% or 90% plus. If they wanted it to be different, then all these individuals that don't go vote, they need to get more involved and go vote for the person that they want in office, which, like we were talking about, a lot of the men would vote for Trump. They just would because men typically, of whatever background, men just tend to be more conservative because they're men. Women tend to be more liberal because they're women. And that goes back to what I was talking about earlier. The roles are different. Men are different from women. So men tend to be more conservative. Women tend to be more liberal. That's just kind of how that goes.
Why is it, do you think, that I guess that Trump has been portrayed as such a racist to all groups? But I've never heard him, and correct me if I'm wrong, maybe say a racist statement concerning Hispanics. And he did say, talk about the murders coming over from Mexico and the illegals. I've never heard him say anything up there in his comments regarding blacks that I deemed as racist, or anything like that. I was sure to say, I love the black community, I love Latinos. Well, how did this thing get put up that he's such a racist?
Man, that's the media's job. The media's job. These A-list and B-list celebrities. That's their job. Their job is to be basically like the groundwork to a certain extent, the ground workers for the Democratic Party. So they got to do everything in their power to flip the script on how people view Trump. See, it's about language and imagery. So they control the language by being the only mouthpiece that people hear for the most part. Then they control the imagery because they're constantly putting it in your face that Trump is this bad guy. He's a racist, misogynist, bigot, xenophobe, all these other, Islamophobe, and they got all these different words. See, language. They love to make up words. So literally, they have done that. That's what they have to do in order to make the everyday person look at Trump differently from how most of us look at him, which is he's a pretty much a down to earth type of guy. He's a billionaire, but he communicates like he's just an everyday working man. And so, but the other side, they have to change that narrative because if they don't, he will get elected. There's really, let's be real, there's no reason why Trump should not win easily in this election. It shouldn't even be close.
You're right. I wish what his campaign would do is because I was with this other night, looking at if he put down his accomplishments of the stuff he did in his administration for black communities, more black workers, the programs he put forth in place. And then like for, the LGBT community, first openly gay cabinet member to ever serve there, went to the UN to stop discrimination against gay people. Like, hey, this is the guy that you're worried about taking away your rights, which I don't know what gay rights means. I don't know if it's the Third Amendment or the Fifth Amendment or the Ninth Amendment of the Constitution. I don't know where they put that in there, but like,
that's the 69th Amendment.
So y'all so he did this, but yet you're saying he's trying to take, where y'all coming up with this at? You're listening to these spins that's put out and you just run with it. And I think there'll be more people like me and you. I know we got small people that listen, but if people just start spreading the stuff and hopefully we get this message across. I think that once this convention is going to be over with, that the news is going to wear off like like it is with a brand new car, and they're really going to introduce Kamala to America.
Yeah, like you said earlier, they haven't pushed her out there to do any interviews or to really give her platform of what her policies are, right? And the reason behind that is, I mean, in my opinion, because they know on the Democrat side, it's about keeping it simple, right? She's a minority, she's a woman, she's an AKA, she's and she knows black people. That's what that's what they want to push. And so everybody that's supposedly looks similar to her are going to be like, oh yeah, cool, we're going to go support her, support this sister. And then the white people who are watching, who are all about being an ally and all that type of crap, they're going to be like, yeah, we got to get behind her because and they have to all get together and support her. That's how that has to go.
You said something a while ago. I forgot to touch on about the debate with Biden, or the debates last time. I guess Biden was too. He didn't want to jump on this, or why anybody didn't seize it. But she was talking about Biden and trying busing or something in this when he was a senator, and she goes, I remember as a little girl and going through this right here, and it clicked on me, and like then I was like, lady, you grew up in California in the mid 80s. This wasn't like Birmingham, Alabama in 1962. Do not tell me you had to experience the kind of racism and discrimination people in the South did. You grew up in Brooklyn and then in California. You cannot relate to what blacks had to go through in the 50s and 60s, 70s, and probably even up into the early 80s here. Okay, so do not even go there. I would have pounced all over that.
Yeah, man, I remember that. I remember that. She did. She said she was a little girl walking and somebody said something. I forgot exactly what it was, but it was a story about some man or somebody that was white said something that was like derogatory or something, and she like never forgot it. It was crazy. And like I said earlier, she called Joe Biden a racist on the debate stage when she was running for president. She turned around and became his VP.
I
So
watched that.
let's make sure we understand this clearly. So she believed enough that she called the man a racist in front of America and the world, but then turned around and became his VP. See, that's how fickle and fake these individuals are on the Democrat side. They literally don't believe anything they're saying. They only say this stuff because they know it gets a reaction, it gets a groundswell of support for them when they throw out words like racism and bigotry and xenophobia and stuff like that. They know these words make a difference. So she used the word in the moment because she thought, oh, it would help me. She didn't really obviously mean it because she became the man's VP. If she believed in racism, right? I don't think, or for example, I don't think that the men and the women back in 1952, if a black person called a white person a racist back then, they really meant it. They weren't going to turn around and then the white person say, hey, come be my assistant manager or whatever. And they're going to be like, oh, okay, sure. That's not how that went because they really were living in a time where there was real animosity and there was real fighting and real killing going on. So it wasn't just words. Kamala just use words now. Words mean nothing to these people.
I mean, so what kind of reflection on that would be President Obama if he openly picks a racist to be his cabinet? And and I found out something that I got attacked so much for an article I wrote about Kamala, and it's got to a point now that if you have a candidate or if you have a figure that is anybody other than a white male, you're going to get blasted as a misogynist, a racist, xenophobe, whatever you can call it. You cannot question any of their decisions because you just did that because of their race. No, that's not true. I'm not going to apologize or step back or hold how I feel because a candidate is of a different color, race, and I don't care if they're Republican, Democrat, or independent. If I don't agree with their policy and I think they're doing something stupid, I'm going to say it.
That's right. That's right. That's something that we need more of. We need more political group that you want to align with to look at things from a logical standpoint and have your own mind and you know you have to be able to reconcile what's being put in front of you to make it make sense. It's not it's not much of that going on. People are just kind of more, I'm on this side, so I have to ride with this side no matter what they say. But what they're pushing is against your morals, your principles, and the principles of the party itself. Like when I'm talking about the Republican side, more specifically, because I align with Republicans. But when they say they're pushing trans and they're supporting gays and stuff, like when Trump says that type of stuff, I don't ride with that. I don't agree with that. But see, I'm able to say that because that's what I really believe. I'm not just a cheerleader. Like people just kind of like look at me and say, I'm just a Trump guy, a Trump loyalist. No, I've been very critical about certain things that he pushed when it came to 2020 with the pandemic and also with the LGBT. But I'm able to call that out because I don't agree with that. But at the same time, I can look and say, overall, looking at the overall picture, he's the best candidate in this election. That's just what it is. If Ron DeSantis was in Trump's position right now and it wasn't Trump, then I would go with Ron DeSantis because he has done everything policy wise for the most part that I would want him to do. So you have to do things like you have to be honest about the situation at what's right in front of you. But most people don't really do that, especially on the Democrat side, because the same people who are churchgoers, who are all holy and saved and sanctified and all that stuff, they're supporting Kamala Harris, who's a pro-abortionist. This lady supports abortion to the 7th, 8th, 9th month. Man, the baby might be born, and she'll still agree. Hey, you might just want to just let it pass away because the woman, the mama ain't ready. That's the difference on with people. People just kind of become groupthink,
Yeah,
and
I
we're not
heard
like
you.
that.
I'm sorry. I heard you. I was listening to one of your shows one night, and you had a guy on there that was pro-abortion, and you was just giving it to him, and you was asking me, well, where do you draw the line? I goes, I don't know, maybe 24 weeks. I'm like, 24 weeks? That kid still live outside the womb. Okay, once I'm pro-life anyway. Now, granted, I know there's exceptions of a rule. If it comes down to the mother may die, okay, I can go along with that. If a woman gets raped, okay, but when you start talking about, you know, 12, 15, 16, 18, 20 weeks, 20, 36 weeks, I don't think I want this kid. No, or I said 48, sorry. But when you start getting up there, I'm like, no, wait a second. We've reached a point now that this is a human being. I don't care. You can say life begins at birth or what. No. If that kid, baby, yeah, I'll call it a kid. If that thing is inside you eating and you can see its hands and stuff, that's a person. I'm not going along with that under no circumstance.
Yeah, I'm more of a, once the baby has been conceived, like that's a life now.
Mhm.
So, well, it's developing. So, so the individual you're talking about, um, that nut. So his whole thing was he doesn't believe that a baby is a human being, like a person, until whatever week he's 26 weeks or whatever he said, 28 weeks, something like that. And so I was telling him like, okay, once the baby is conceived, it's conceived by what? Two humans, right? It's not like one being is a monkey and the other one's a zebra or something. They're both humans. So two humans, a male and a female, procreated this living child. So the offspring is a human being as well, right? It's a developing human. So anything in development, I was trying to explain to him, we're always developing. Like there's developmental stages from conception to death.
Yeah,
We're
all the time.
always
Absolutely.
developing, right? So who am I or who are any of us to really say that's not a baby because it's developing from the time of conception. It's already in development as a human. So yeah, it was it was crazy. Like what you said about the whole the babies are viable, and they love to say that the baby's not viable until whatever. Well, look, I just saw a story just recently. This mother gave birth to a baby at like 22 weeks. So he said like 26 weeks or something. He's like, it's only viable at 26 weeks. This lady had a baby at 22 weeks. The baby was like 1 pound, maybe. I don't even know if it was 1 pound yet. Guess what? The baby survived. Was living. It was crying, making no like. You know what I'm saying? It was a baby. So yeah. And then what you said about the certain exceptions. I don't get upset with people that say those type of things like. As okay, I can kind of understand people choosing that because her life is on the line. But when it comes to like rape or incest, like none of that is the baby's fault. And so I don't look at it like we should be making the ultimate choice to take that baby away when the baby didn't ask for this situation. And we don't know what that baby may turn out to be. You know what I'm saying? Like I think we play too much of a role in these actions of kind of nature.
My only
Like
thing with the rape is you know, if a woman was raped and conceived a baby, I mean, is it fair to make her carry that child for 9 months?
that's
I mean,
a tough thing. And let me say that real quick. I am not for anybody getting raped or anything like that.
right.
At all. That's a to me. I mean, the dad or the to be father or whatever in that situation, he should be locked up. I mean, that's just what it is. To me, he can cease to exist. So, not saying anything about that, but my thing is it's that's a very tough situation. But I'm gonna err on the side of the unborn child in that because true, the mother didn't ask for that to happen to her, but also the more innocent person in this is the baby who's been created out of that situation. And imagine being a child is born and being raised, and then you find out that your dad did that to your mother. Like, but even still, that baby is going to be somebody, right? The baby is somebody. So we shouldn't have gone back in time and say, well, at 9 weeks, she should have gotten rid of that baby or whatever. No, it's still not worth that because that's still somebody. And there's a lot of rape babies out here that are doing, some great things in life. Like there's some of them that we know, like we see them on TV and everything.
All right, so let me ask you this about the qualify. This will be good. So I'm gonna edit this good. So I have a couple of videos put up here with the captain giving his speeches on some issues. So Kamala, I've always heard the old saying, be careful what you ask for because you just might get it. She's been pushing Trump for a debate. Now we've all heard her speak. Like I heard her the other day saying about inflation. She goes, well, when inflation happens, prices go up, and when prices go up, it makes hard for people to buy groceries and pay for their bills. And when people can't do that, then that means they have less money to go spend. And when you don't have money to spend, then you can't buy things that you need. And that's just good for all Americans if inflation is low, so they'll have more money. And I'm like, you're gonna walk onto a debate stage, Donald Trump. If you thought Joe Biden did a bad job, what do you think this man is going to do to her when she answers the first question like that?
Man, I can't wait for a debate. All right, I cannot wait. I'm going to definitely watch that. I might even do if I'm invited to Atlanta, Georgia. I don't know if anybody else saw this, but there was a group of women black women, all right, that invited Kamala and Trump to come sit down and have a conversation. And one of the ladies is like a host or something on Fox. So guess who showed up?
Donald Trump.
Donald J. Trump showed up. Guess who didn't show up?
Kamala.
Absolutely. Now, why she didn't come? She claimed it was like a funeral or something like that to go to. All right, that's all good, great, wonderful. I'm sure Trump had plenty of things to go do, and he could have been doing as well, but he didn't do that. He went to where he was asked to be. Now, and mind you, this is an environment of the supposed enemy of people that don't like Trump. Okay,
Right.
he walked into the
Hurt me.
lion's den,
Hurt
and when I
around.
tell you he smacked down, he laid the smackdown like WWE SmackDown, like The Rock doing the rock bottom. He did all of that.
Water in his veins, brother.
I mean, he handled all questions. It was no, I mean, he was saying stuff. He sounded like me talking. I mean, it was it was no holds barred. All right, it was no holds barred. And so for her to say he don't want to debate me and all that, man, look, this man went to a place where he's not even liked, and he ran the room. You didn't even show up, Kamala.
Yeah, I mean, he walked into the line. I mean, walked into the line of fire, and he never blinked. He never got upset. I mean, he never got mad. And I mean, and I'll tell you, like people say, oh, other people hate this, but when he said that, well, now she's black. I mean, I busted out laughing. I was like, oh my God. Yeah, because I knew what he was saying. And JD Vance explained it. Vance is, she's a chameleon. She says whatever she will say in front of a group. Because, like I said, yeah, no, she might want to claim that now, but that's not what no. I said the thing where the night when she was talking about with cooking, she goes, and we're doing an Indian dish, and she goes, yeah. And the woman goes, because you're Indian, and she goes, yeah, and you look like half the members of my family. Like,
that's the one. Yep, that's the one I was talking about earlier. Yep, the lady said she looked like half her family or whatever. Yep, that's it. That's the lady.
Let's see, a couple more questions here for you. I seen an ad. I don't know if you've seen the first ad she released. So here's what the ad showed her up there. She's talking. It's just a side thing, and she's talking about I want America that blah blah blah, and then it pictures over and it shows Donald Trump. Now the people in the audience are females and females of color. Which, I mean, that's fine. I mean, you got to have females vote. And then it goes to a picture of Donald Trump in a red MAGA hat, and he has three white men there with just these horrible, mean faces. And then it goes back to all women again. And then at the end, she goes, "I want a party of inclusiveness," and it shows the rainbow flag flying. And I was like, "Okay, wonderful." So you're just said that you don't want to try to get any white male votes. You're done with them. This is going to be a party of everybody, or your election, an administration that you don't want white males involved. I mean, that's the message I got from it.
Yeah, but see, at the same time, she had they got the whole white men for Kamala thing going on, right?
You seen how that went, didn't you?
They went now.
You seen how that went, didn't you?
Yeah. The terrible backlash, but but see, you have so many people that are so-called whites that support that side because they want to be allies. They call themselves allies and partners in what do they call it? Partners in justice and all this type of stuff. They all these little weird terms that they call themselves, but they will ride with that side no matter what. So she can do something where it's a pro-black thing with the rainbow and all this type of stuff. She can do that and push that. And guess what the white guys are gonna do? Celebrate it because they want to be a part of that, right? They want to be a part of that. So they'll support anything to be a part of it. So they're not gonna think twice or blink about it.
Well, see, I consider myself an ally because I want to see black people do just as well as white people. I want to see Hispanics do just well. I want to see Asians do just well as white people. but I'm not an ally that, hey, I'm going to support you, even though everything that you do go against my beliefs. I mean, we talked about Tim Scott a while ago. I mean, if Tim Scott ran, I would consider voting for him. I wouldn't say that I would ultimately do that just because he's black, but if I had the candidates up there lined up that Tim Scott I thought was more uh, qualified to do it, absolutely I'd vote for Tim Scott. But I'm not going to do it just because of somebody's skin color, or I'm not going to vote against somebody just because of their skin color.
That's right. That's right. And that's how it should be. That's how it should be. It should be just based on the merit of that person. It should be on, the policies that you've seen them try to implement or that they may have implemented. Whatever the case, like look at their actual groundwork, not them, claiming to be something that, you're looking at them and you're like, like it's Elizabeth Warren and she's saying she's, half Cherokee or whatever. And you're like, really? Um, it's just weird. To me, it's really weird, right? And I'm a person who people don't know what I am. Like they really see me, and since I was a kid, they never really been able to really pinpoint it. Only a few people have been like, oh, you must be, mixed with black and white. And I'm like, back then I was like, yeah, that's what I am. But I had people that thought I've had Indian women see me and be like, are you from India? I've had Cuban people say, "Are you Cuban?" Ask me, "Can I speak Spanish?" I've had Mexican people say the same. All these people think I'm from where they're from, and that's how that just confirms to me how race is just made up bunch of crap. Because every person, you can't just look at them and tell what they are. You just can't do it. And then you got people that will bold-faced lie to you and tell you that they're something that they're not because it's beneficial or it's convenient for them to do so. It's just a bunch of crap. So I don't, that's why throughout this interview and when I talk generally about race, I'll do like quotations and all that stuff because it's not a real thing. This is just how the world looks at it. So we have to talk. I have to talk like how the world looks at it so they understand what I'm talking about.
People have been programmed to think that way because I remember one time. I remember one time, I got somebody said this to me, but I said something about black people, and they said, "Well, you need to refer to them as African American." I said, "No, I'm not doing that." I said, "Nobody refers to me as European American. I mean, I'm not. I'm just not doing that because I was born in America and I'm a white man. And people call me white. I'm not going into this because you're offended because I say that or say that. It wasn't like I didn't use any kind of slurs, derogatory towards anybody. So no, I'm not going along with the um what I'm supposed to be, what's supposed to be said. Okay, and people just have to get over it. One thing I want to touch on, before you let you think, busy man. We talk about this what gender politics or whatever, and then we ask, this person has to give like this. Do you see, which I do, provided even if she wins and serves 8 years, or Trump wins and serves 4, is there any doubt in your mind that the leading candidate they're going to promote next time is going to be Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg?
I definitely see that. They tried that. They tried it with him. In 2020, he that 2020 field was crazy for Democrats. But anyway, they tried him. Then. Yeah, I do see them doubling back around, and he's a more well-known person at this point, right? More people know his name. I wouldn't think he's a person that's like a front runner like that, but I can see them doing that. I can definitely see that. That's where we're headed to for sure.
I mean, and then there's going to be a time which, and I can actually, I see definitely where this is coming next. There's going to be a Hispanic person that's pushed. And then is the Asian community. Well, we've already got an Asian, so I guess forget about that. But I'm really surprised there hasn't been. I know you had Rubio, but there hasn't been another Hispanic leader try to, seek higher office like that. With the rising Hispanic votes that we have, but that's going to be next. What I think. And look, I don't have any problem if we had a Hispanic president or if we had another black president. My thing is, let's get the most qualified person or the one that can do the best job. It doesn't mean it always have to be a white person up there, but to me, like, don't try to say that, well, we can't have another white male as vice president, or we can't have this right here because, we have to be DEI or DIE or however you call it. That doesn't sound racist or anything, does it? Put it like that.
No, I mean, not at all. Not at all. It's to be real, like based on how the world looks at racism and everything, those individuals are the racists because it shouldn't even matter. Like, if you're gonna pick somebody to do a job, any job that is, right? It can be something simple, like being a janitor or something, right? Just cleaning a building. Are you gonna go pick somebody because the way they look to go do the job, or are you gonna pick somebody that is, that does the job well, that can get the job done? It shouldn't be about how they look, right? So to me, it's more of a racist thing to say I'm going to go pick that person to do it because you know they wouldn't get picked otherwise. You know what I'm saying? Like they're no good at the job, so let me go pick them to do it because of how they look. That way, it'll give them opportunity to go do the role and go fail at it. It's like that's just the weirdest thing to me, to pick people like that. And if we're being 100% real, percentage wise, statistically, how many black people should be in any workplace? Based on stats, there's what, 60% of America that's white, and I think around like 12, 13% that are black. So how can you have a workplace of 80% black people? You should have, for every 5 white people, it should be like one or two blacks. You know what I'm saying? Or let's say out of every 10, 10 out of 10, it should be like six, 7 whites, and like two, the other remaining 3 or 4 are a mixture of Hispanic and black. If we're doing stats, but see,
I,
the thing is, they want to push it to where now the blacks are the majority of a situation. That's not how. If they're going, see, they're breaking their own rules. Like, the rules are supposed to be equality. Equality will make it more. It'll be more evenly spread, not a majority of the minority shouldn't be the majority. How does that make sense?
I've pointed that out to people too. I'm like, there's a reason that white males are dominating this and that. Or that. I said, I'm not saying that there shouldn't be, like I said, blacks, Hispanics, or whatever. But when you've got, like you said, 5 positions, and you're putting a white male in one of them, and every other ethnic group in that, well, that's like you said, it's defeating everything. I mean, and I said that too. The people who are pushing this stuff, they are the ones who's actually the racists, because you don't ever see the Republicans or anybody else talking about this.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so
That
why
is
are you
right.
trying to? I mean, look, I'm all for other ideas, okay? Um, but when you do this thing of, you know, uh, like I said, it has to be equal across the board, then that's not equality, and that's not saying that that blacks or Hispanics or anybody is not being treated unequal. No, they are being treated equal. They're getting the same positions that should be allotted to them according to demographics. I mean, like, look
Yeah.
at the what they're doing in Congress right now. They're trying to create special uh, um, congressional seats to fit certain races and etc. Okay, I'm like I said, I'm not. Everybody should be represented, but when you start getting up there, like, okay, we got to give 26, 28% like this to Hispanics. Well, no, now you're misrepresenting the population. I mean, is that a fair statement?
That's absolutely fair, and that's what we're talking about. Like, they make these crazy rules to begin with, and then they don't even stick to the rules that they created. Like, if we're gonna be logical about it, you shouldn't be overshooting the representation. Like, it just doesn't make sense. So it like, when you look at it, you're like, you could tell it's forced because of the sheer numbers of whatever you're looking at. Um, like for me, like my background, I used to manage Dollar Generals.
Right.
Yeah, where I live, just about always hear, man, they don't let no black females be this and be that or what. I'm like, have you been to Dollar Generals in around the city? Every store is. I literally used to keep count. Like I used to count and be like, okay, all right, that store they got this right. Every store, it would be for every. There were 20 stores in my district, 22 stores. At least 14, 15 had a black female managing the store. Well, like where? How are y'all not being represented? I don't understand. And then the whole thing about the wage gap. Wage gap where they were making more than me. I thought I'm supposed to make more because I'm a man. It's just all this stuff. Like they make these rules, but then they don't even abide by their own rule making. It's like none of this stuff makes sense. You know, and then if you're talking about you know, upper mobility, they would say, well, we're not district managers. Well, that's not true either because I had a black female district manager when I was in another district, and I had a white female district manager when I was in another district. So, and I had black males that were so like I don't know what like see there again, what percentage do you have to have to where now they're satisfied? Because it seems like people who want that representation, they're never satisfied. They can get as many people as they want to get, they still are not satisfied.
And that brings me to something. And I want to ask you this question about jobs in just a minute. Or let me ask you this, then I'll go into the job thing. And I knew exactly what he meant when he said it, but of course the media started. When Trump made the statement about they're taking black jobs, you go, well, what does it mean, black jobs? Well, to me, my interpretation was it's taking jobs that black people work just like everybody else works. You know, construction, roofing, um, uh, you know, what have you. It's taking jobs away from black people. I mean, is that how you interpret them? Because I didn't think it was like, oh, they're taking jobs away from janitors and fast food workers. That's not how I interpret it at all.
Let's be real because Obama was the one that did the press conference or whatever that was, and he said, you know, that they needed more Hispanics to do the jobs like cleaning, housekeeping, and picking fruit and stuff. Obama said that. So anyway, yeah, when it comes to Trump saying this about black jobs, like he's talking about jobs that black people kind of tend to get, like mechanics, lawn care, when it comes to like flooring, construction, etc. Like if you look at most jobs, they're even like fast food management, all that type of stuff. That's black males kind of make up a lot of these jobs, especially in urban areas, right? In like your Birminghams, your Montgomerys, your Atlantas, places like that. If you go to a lot of restaurants, you're going to see a lot of black males working restaurants, retail stores, that type of thing. Nothing's wrong with that. I mean, I think if you go ask those men, hey, you know, do you have an issue working here? They're gonna probably tell you no, because guess what? They applied and that's where they want to work. So they're working there. They go show up every day. That's who pays their paycheck. So it's just, you know, again, they have to go and twist around something that Trump said because it's Trump that said it. When Obama made comments about Hispanics being housekeepers and picking fruit, you know, everybody was like, oh, well, you know, yeah, because a lot of times that's what they do. Because back home in Mexico and Honduras, they pick a lot of fruit. They do a lot of outside work. That's what it is.
I was going to ask you now about that. Something about our general and oh yeah. So we've talked about when's enough stuff. Okay, so I look back and probably people don't know this, but Shirley Chisholm was a black congresswoman or maybe senator. She was the first major candidate to run for president that was a black female in 1972. Okay, and then we had Geraldine Ferraro, a white lady, who ran for president in '84. Carol Moseley Braun, she was a black female, got elected senator in 1992. Then we had Colin Powell, who was the first black Secretary of State. And then we had Condoleezza Rice. And then we had President Obama. And then again, we had Hillary Clinton. And then we had Dr. Kane, who ran, excuse me, Herman Cain, who ran for president in 2008. We had Dr. Carson, who ran for president in 2016. Then, of course, Cory Booker and Harris entered in 2020. And hold up, let me not forget, we also had Alan Keyes in 96, and of course, the Reverend Alvin Sharpton. And we had Jesse Jackson, who probably paved the way for so many in 84 and 88. So
Yep.
you can't say that we've not had black serious candidates and ones that get elected and have held higher positions. So is this just a push, like you said, with to get more, like you said, to get so it's more dominant by minorities like this? Because to say that we don't, we're not pick blacks for office or Hispanics, what have you, that's just not true.
Yep. And something, when you were naming those names, some came to me. Most of these people who got elected, which party they represent? Like you said Hillary, you named
everybody except for Colin Powell and everybody's, none of them got elected. Tim Scott was, I forgot about Senator Scott. He's the only Republican I know that's got elected, and Colin Powell was a Republican.
Yep. So most of them are Democrats.
Right.
Here's why that is. So what they would say is, well, we will nominate and elect these people because we're the inclusive people, right? That's what they'll say. And the Republicans don't want that diversity, so they don't have as many representatives on that side. Here's the thing. Every time a person like Clarence Thomas gets brought up in the media, what do? They destroy them. If you are a conservative minority, whether it be a female, a male, whatever the case, they are going to find ways to destroy you. They did the same thing when he ran and was trying to beat out Obama. They made him a radical. He was a radical Christian person. So they ostracized him. They do that for everybody. So what they'll do is they win the game by they uplift any minority that's on the Democrat side. They'll uplift them, talk all these great things about them, which gives the people watching, the people at home watching, they see all this positivity in regards to this person that's on the Democrat side. But then when it comes to the Republican run person, the same media, these same celebrities and people attack them. Well, they're misogynist, or they're against women's rights in this way, or they're against minorities. That's how they do it. And so what happens is the Republican Party ends up they put them up to for a nomination, but they don't make it because the general public has seen nothing but negativity in regards to that person because they're conservative.
And here's what I've heard. And remember, this is not my words. So I'm saying this, but I've heard black people refer to conservative Republicans or whatever. Oh, he's nothing but a Tom.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. They love to say that Uncle Tom, Coon, all that. Yeah.
I mean,
Sambo.
and I'm like, yeah, and I'm like, okay, so you're nothing right there, but you're using racial politics now because maybe this man doesn't line up with abortion on demand, or that he doesn't want to see a transgender teaching his kid in school. He doesn't want to see women, a man. I ain't gonna call him a transgender man because I don't. I refuse to do that. You're a man. Just because you take testosterone or whatever, you are a man. I'm not. Don't care what you say, but going out there in women's sports, like if I had a daughter and she was a wrestler or she was a swimmer and a man got in, man, you'd hear all about that. You'd hear about it in the news. You'd read about it on AOL.com. You'd say about this crazy white man come out of the stands because there is no way a man would get in there with my daughter in a wrestling match or something and start. I mean, you would hear all about that, dude. Yes. Man, you hear about that? I mean,
that's right. That's right. For some reason, there again, on that side, they can do these things that make no sense. to logic, to just a way to keep it order in things. They'll do these things where they pit people who shouldn't be competing against each other. They'll do that. And like I have daughters, so I can't imagine my daughter going to a basketball game or whatever the case, and she's like, 15 years old, and then there's a boy on the other team, and he's, 6'1". My daughter's 5'1", and it's like I gotta watch that, and then God forbid I make a scene about that, I'm gonna be looked at as a misogynist. They call me misogynist, a bigot. The blacks are gonna call me a Sambo, a coon, and Uncle Tom. I'm gonna be all these. I'm gonna get it from both sides, right? Because I'm the bad guy in that situation. But they're gonna be putting my daughter up against a male who's 2 or 3 times her size. It's weird, weird. I don't.
If I was an official, I would not even participate in that. I mean, I'd be
Yeah,
like, there,
and the thing about that is, it's up to the parents, and if the females are adults, it's up to them. But if it's children, the parents have to step up. Like, if you don't want to see that type of activity go on, what you do is you don't compete. When you just, the team just says no, we're not doing it, guess what's going to happen? The league or the organization or whatever the case is that's overseeing this competition, they're going to make changes because they want the competition. They can't not have it, right? So they're going to make changes. But when you keep going out there and competing and getting beat down or whatever the case is, they're going to keep doing it because guess what? You keep showing up. So
I mean, and then another thing too, just real quick, like I would get my kids so far out of this school and do homeschooling if I ever came across something like, the drag queen story hour. One person told me, they said, well, you're just a bigot or whatever. And I said, no, I'm against the sexual exploitation of children. If there was a stripper story hour where women were walking in there with bikinis and top on, I would not want a child to be exposed to that right there. Okay. Children in kindergarten should not be learning about transgenders, transsexual, strippers, or anything sexual at all. Okay. They should be reading about the bunny running through the forest or whatever and being kids.
that's right.
Um,
That's right. That's right. Absolutely right. I definitely. I hear the same thing you just said. They'll say, well, y'all don't go against when it's straight situations, but it's like, adults are trying to put their sexual orientation on their straightness on kids. It's like, well, first of all, let's separate a couple things. Number one, it's natural to be straight, so that alone is not a problem. So let's make sure that's clear. Then, when it comes to the sexual exploitation of a child, that's different. I don't care if it's straight, gender bending, whatever the case is, crooked, don't matter. That we're not going to do that. I'm not for that at all. But being straight, that's natural, so that you can't attack that. But they love to put everything into the same boat, and so it looks like when you talk about being straight, there's something wrong with that because you're not allowing the bended and the crooked activities.
And my thing, and I'll cut this. I'll tell you something in a second. We'll finish up. My thing with the LGBTQ. Look, whatever you want to do in your home, away from me, hey man, I don't care. That's the libertarian in me. But when you start coming out into the streets and dominating the airways for the month and having your parties and throwing this thing out here and you're scandalous, that's where I draw the line. I don't want to see that. I don't want to see it on TV. But like I said, whatever two people do in the private at their home, as long as it's not illegal, that's none of my business, man. I'm not getting involved in it. You and God can be the judge of that.
Yeah, as a believer, it's just the thing that we all have to understand is individuals. Yeah, you're gonna have certain people that are gonna be able to live their private lives and they're gonna be able to do whatever they're into and not push that on anybody else. You got certain people that can do that. But for the most part, when it comes to people who are doing these activities, they can't help but the thing about sin is sin. When you commit sin, most people that sin wants to spread. It don't want to just stay attached to one person or just these few individuals. It wants to spread out and become the norm. So they can't help it but to go out here and go in the streets and tell everybody it's okay what I'm doing, and you got to accept it. And if you don't accept it and you find fault in it, then we're gonna call you a hater. We're gonna call you all these other nasty names. So now you're looked at as a person who's against me being a human being, and so that's the role that they play. And I always get the analogy of the whole behind closed doors thing. To a certain extent, yeah, I can understand that. But like imagine there's a meth maker or meth dealer, a meth cooker, right? In the privacy of his home, doing what he's doing, right? Supposedly he's not bothering nobody. But let's say he messes up his potion or whatever, however they make meth. I don't know what all they put in there, but it explodes, right? So now you got his home has exploded, the house next to him has exploded, and now the whole block has got debris all over the place. Now, what he was doing in his own home has now affected everybody in the neighborhood. You know what I'm saying? Like things like that can blow up. So likewise when it comes to different lifestyles and weird lifestyles that people are into, a lot of times that stuff is not going to stay behind closed doors. It's going to come out to the streets and they're going to try to push on everybody else, including the children. And I'm not going for that at all, especially when it comes to the kids.
Yeah, man, I agree with you. Hey, Kevin, I'm not going to hold you more. When I cut this film, I do want to tell you something else before we go. Is there anything else you want to add, my man, before we close this out?
No, hey man, I appreciate you having me back on the show. Every time it's always an honor, a pleasure. People go check me out. The Captain's Quarter Show on Facebook. I would appreciate you coming and check me out. Hit that like, hit that follow.
Stop recording.